Well, this has been a pretty active time. I used to make a joke. I got involved in the field of addiction because I wanted, it's possible we'll cure some diseases some days. I don't know, heart disease or cancer. We're not about there yet. But I wanted to pick something that'll never be cured. So I'll always have something to do. And so, as the daily rushes go by us, the things that I'm concerned about, addiction and more broadly, mental health, they never stop coming at us. And the question that we have to ask is, are we making any better progress at dealing with these things? And there are quite a few signs that we're not. I mean, everybody knows the data that we're now up to 100,000 drug deaths a year. Everybody knows that data. Less well known are cross-national surveys that show us to be at the bottom of the heap in regards to how we deal with mental illness. The Commonwealth Fund did a survey of healthcare in all the leading economic nations. We spent by far the most, 50% more than the second most per capita, and we had the worst outcomes health-wise, and the Commonwealth Fund threw in, and we have the highest suicide rate. So let's just go into recent developments. A suicide made a lot of news lately. Are you aware of whose suicide made a lot of news lately?
Are we talking about Naomi? I forget.
Naomi Judd.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read headlines. Naomi Judd was vocal about her battle with mental illness and depression before her April 2022 death by suicide at the age of 76. So I'm 76. Suicide is a bad outcome. I mean, we're in a business where there's a lot of bad outcomes. I mean, we make for good outcomes. Drug deaths are bad outcomes. But suicide, that really affects me that's the ultimate in a failure of something to work. So Naomi Judd found success as a performer, but her real triumph was as a mental health advocate. Do you see something in there that would strike me as strange and bizarre?
You don't want your mental health advocate committing suicide.
It's not a good recommendation, is it? I mean, it's sort of like picking in the cat. I'm stealing this from Ethan Nadelman. He uses it surreptitiously. He doesn't say it in public. Having a former alcoholic as your counselor is like having somebody as your financial advisor who went bankrupt. It's just not. Is that really their strong suit? And so, this is another headline. Death of Naomi Judd must serve as a mental health wake-up call. Here's how you can find help and be an advocate. And nobody finds it strange. They're saying, why don't you be more like Naomi Judd? And so as our mental health outcomes and addiction outcomes worsen, our go-to response is to say, hey, some people really know a lot about this. Let's do what they say, even more so. And what they've been doing, even more so, has had calamitous results. And here, the calamitous results are the person themselves. We don't want to, hopefully we're not spoiling the memory of Naomi Judd. She's dead and she killed herself. There's nothing more we can do about that. There's nothing we can say to make her whole. But how does it make logical sense to follow somebody down that personal rabbit hole?
I might put it something somewhat different. It's softer. You might not be surprised. But I see the contradiction I see is something more like, there's, a group is saying, well, Naomi Judd is a mental health advocate, and obviously she has skin in the game because she's had her own mental health difficulties, so much so that she's committed suicide. Now, of course, we need more. This is like a paraphrase or something. We need more mental health treatment or whatever, because even Naomi Judd wasn't saved by it. Now, the question there is similarly, if your best advocate is not accessing the kind of help that you're saying will save lives, that's also a big problem. So there you go.
She's almost she's a demonstration of a problem. What she's advocating and what she was accessing didn't help her.
Right.
We have to rethink that.
But that's it. Was she accessing it, or is the argument that she didn't access it because it's not enough?
A prominent person commits suicide. It came up with Kate Spade.
Mm-hmm.
The accusations when she committed suicide were, what's the matter with her? She didn't access mental health treatment.
Right.
Her
That's
husband
exactly.
had it. He was like being Me Too'd. He said she's been in psychiatric care for 5 years. She's been taking intensive doses of antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs for 5 years.
Right. So I'm saying that's a stuck argument, because you could say she was accessing mental health treatment and it's nevertheless led to this bad result. Or you could say she wasn't accessing this mental health treatment for some reason, and which says, how, if anyone's going to access it, wouldn't you think it's your celebrity advocate? So,
and what we should say is, what do we need to rethink?
Yeah.
So that people who are worried about, who have these problems, why are these problems being created? And, there are a lot of people who have something to say about that. We've discussed Johann Hari says, mental health difficulties in America are not due to the treatment people are getting or not getting. They're due to much more basic parts of society.